Welcome to this explainer on the creatine blind spot, brain energy unlocked. Look, if you're into optimizing how you learn, how you work, or how you focus, you are in exactly the right place today. We're going to explore a really massive paradigm shift. We are taking a compound that, let's be honest, is usually associated entirely with sweaty gym bags and giant tubs of muscle powder, and we're revealing it as a profound, hidden fuel for your mind.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. Think about it for a second. What if the absolute most effective grain supplement in the world is hiding right there in the weight room? Because when most of us hear the word creatine, our minds immediately go to grunting bodybuilders, those massive jug-sized water bottles, and explosive heavy lifting. And sure, it is incredible for increasing physical strength, no doubt about it, but treating creatine strictly as a muscle builder, you're kind of missing the forest for the trees. Because its most fascinating, and honestly arguably its most important role, is operating right behind your eyes, inside your brain, acting as this hidden secret of cellular brain energy.
The way your body distributes its resources is frankly pretty wild. Your brain is an absolute energy hog. It's consuming roughly 20% of your total daily energy. I mean, just pause and think about that. Even when you are completely knocked out, deep asleep, your neurons are relentlessly working. They're maintaining electrical gradients, they're processing memories, repairing tissues, the whole shebang. And that requires a massive, uninterrupted supply of daily fuel just to keep the lights on and maintain baseline operations.
And here is where it gets truly disproportionate. 2%. That's it, just 2% of your overall body weight, yet it completely demands a fifth of your total energy intake. It is a wildly greedy organ. So practically speaking, this means when your cellular energy production gets compromised, whether that's from getting older, dealing with chronic stress, or even just pulling a few nights of poor sleep, your brain is almost always one of the very first systems to suffer. It just doesn't have the luxury of running on empty.
So you might be wondering, how does the brain actually pay for all this nonstop activity? Well, it uses a biological currency called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. You can basically think of ATP as your body's immediate cash on hand. Every single thought you have, that costs ATP. A tiny nerve impulse or a muscle contraction, yep, ATP. But here's the real catch. You burn through this cash incredibly fast. Your body desperately needs to regenerate it, literally millisecond by millisecond. If demand suddenly spikes and your ATP levels drop, your performance is going to absolutely plummet.
And that right there brilliantly illustrates exactly where creatine steps in. It acts as your brain's rapid backup generator. Inside your cells, creatine is stored mostly as something called phosphocreatine. So when your brain is under high cognitive demand, let's say you're taking a really brutal exam or you're trying to function at work on zero sleep, your ATP drains rapidly. That is the exact moment phosphocreatine instantly steps in. It rapidly donates a phosphate group to regenerate that ATP almost instantaneously. It is literally a biological energy buffer, stabilizing your brain during periods of really intense activity.
Now, there is a pretty clear dietary divide when it comes to this backup fuel. Creatine is naturally found almost exclusively in animal-derived foods, things like meat and fish. If you are plant-based, your body absolutely does make its own creatine using amino acids in the liver and kidneys, but your tanks are naturally going to run a bit lower. You aren't deficient by any means, but if anyone is going to feel the biggest, most noticeable upgrade from adding this energy buffer, it's very often those of you with these naturally lower stores. When your brain's energy reserves are finally tapped out, oh man, you feel it instantly. We're talking mental fatigue, that awful brain fog, reduced focus, slower processing speed, poor working memory, and just a massively increased sensitivity to stress. I mean, we've all been there, right? Sleep deprivation is a prime example of this because it violently drains the brain's battery. And interestingly, studies actually show that creatine supplementation can partially offset the cognitive impairments of inadequate sleep. Now, obviously, it's not a substitute for a good night's rest, but it proves just how powerfully your daily cognitive performance is tied directly to cellular energy.
Let's shift gears and look at the long-term impact, because this really builds into true cognitive resilience. As we get older, our mitochondria, the cellular powerhouses we all learned about in high school biology, they decline in efficiency, and that creates oxidative stress. Because creatine helps support this rapid energy buffering, researchers are aggressively exploring its neuroprotective role for aging brains. But here is the amazing synergy. Exercise is already a massive protector of cognition, boosting blood flow and things like BDNF. By using creatine, you actually improve your physical workout capacity, which then indirectly compounds all those protective benefits for your brain. It's just an incredibly powerful positive feedback loop.
Okay, but despite all this solid science, there are still massive roadblocks keeping everyday people from utilizing this safe cellular tool. We have to talk about the myths.
Seriously, mention creatine outside of a gym and you're almost guaranteed to hear, "Oh, that's only for athletes." Or, "Doesn't that cause unhealthy water retention and bloating?" Or the classic, "I heard it damages your kidneys."
All right, let's just tear these down with actual science right now. First up, only for athletes. Completely false. Every single cell in your body, very much including your delicate neurons, relies on this exact energy metabolism. Second, the unhealthy bloating myth. Okay, yes, creatine does draw water, but it actually draws it inside the muscle cells. That is healthy intracellular hydration, which supports cellular function. It's not just general, uncomfortable puffiness. And finally, the whole kidney myth. For healthy individuals taking recommended doses, the safety profile is incredibly strong. You see, creatine naturally breaks down into a byproduct called creatinine. So while routine lab tests might show higher creatinine levels, that's simply a harmless, expected byproduct of the supplement, absolutely not a sign of actual kidney damage.
So I think the crucial point here is captured perfectly in this idea. Creatine doesn't stimulate the brain like caffeine. Instead, it helps support the underlying energy systems. When you drink a cup of coffee, you're essentially borrowing energy from tomorrow. You're just masking fatigue by blocking receptors in the brain. It's a quick, temporary fix. Creatine is an entirely different beast. It's a foundational metabolic tool. It gives your cells the raw materials they actually need to maintain stability and function efficiently in the first place. It's all about deep structural resilience, not just a cheap, temporary buzz.
So if you're sitting there thinking you want to integrate this into your routine, the evidence-based guidelines are super straightforward and highly actionable. Step 1 is simple. Just choose creatine monohydrate. Don't fall for the fancy, wildly expensive variations with crazy marketing. Good old monohydrate is the most researched, the most effective, and easily the most affordable form out there. Step 2, take a maintenance dose of about 3 to 5 grams per day. And step 3, skip the so-called loading phase you might see recommended on internet forums. It's completely optional and honestly unnecessary for most people. Just taking a consistent daily dose is really all it takes to fully top up those cellular reserves over time.
We so often think of the body as these totally separate systems, right? Like the brain is up here doing its thing and the muscles are down there doing theirs. But they are deeply, deeply interconnected through these shared fundamental energy pathways. Your brain doesn't just depend on isolated nutrients, it relies on highly resilient metabolic systems. So I want to leave you with this question to chew on. In a world full of chronic stress, sleep deprivation, and just relentless cognitive overload, is your brain running on a truly resilient battery, or are you just running on empty? Supporting your cellular energy might just be the absolute most overlooked aspect of your long-term cognitive health. Keep learning, keep optimizing, and seriously, take care of your brain's battery.